Hi, the piece that I'm about to show you is a background music that I composed for an animation based on an imaginary tax, which is nicknamed the Robin Hood tax. The purpose of this tax is basically to take a little from the rich and give to the poor so that the poor could benefit in more or less the same way as the rich can in terms of services and so on. This was part of a master's project that a colleague of mine, Silangu Tshunga, did, and he basically commissioned me to produce this piece of music for him. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to show you what sounds were actually used in this composition. But before I do so, I'm going to play two parts of this composition. You've got the intro sequence and you've got the main piece itself. Enjoy. This is the intro. Right, okay, now this is the general breakdown of each section, beginning with the intro. Now, on the intro, my initial idea for this piece was to center the piece on a motif that we could easily identify with, I don't know, the stories of Robin Hood. What inspired me for this was watching all of those Robin Hood cartoons, you know, the ones made by Disney as a child, and I could still remember some of the motifs used in it. So with that in mind, this is what I've used. I'm going to mute all of the channels, well, solo, the channel in question, the track in question that has that solo, which goes like this. Okay. Now, this particular sound isn't from the keyboard itself. It is loaded from a library called Complete Orchestra, which I downloaded from the Motivator.com website. They are a very good resource for extra sounds that you could get for this keyboard. So this is the motif again. It's a really pleasant sound. In order to make it stand out from the mix, I put in quite a bit of reverb on it, so that it sounds like it's been played in the hall or something. The string sound is one of the string patches from the keyboard, and it goes like this. That's the contrabass sound. A contrabass is basically the low strings in an orchestra. I've also got the high strings, which sound like this. And I've also got some percussion, which sounds like this. And finally, I've also got some extra percussion to give it a bit of dynamicism, which will sound like this. So I've got some crash cymbals, some triangles. I like that rolling cymbal right at the very end as well. That's a rolling crash cymbal. So that's for the intro. And so when I play them all together, it sounds like that. Now for the main section, it's a bit more complicated, obviously, because there are some extra sounds used here. What I've actually done is that for this section I've divided it into 5 subsections, if you like, or 5 parts of the piece. Like for instance, this is section A. So these are the extra sounds that you're hearing on this section. The ones that I'm going to actually show you are the synth strings. Actually, this is the guitar, which is like a constant motif that plays throughout this section. On this sound, you could hear that there is like a delay, which is timed to the exact tempo of the song, so that it doesn't sound a bit off sync. I'll let it roll for just this one bit, then I'll go on to the next track. Synth strings. Now I wanted to combine this sound with the string section that was on the intro section, so that I could combine the best of both synthetic strings and natural live orchestra string section. Big strings. Now normally it would carry on, but I've deliberately left it like that, probably because I can't really be bothered to edit it so that it extends beyond that point. But hey, you know. And then we've got the bass section. And as usual, there's a tiny bit of reverb in the background, but it doesn't really detract from the rest of the song, so I've left it there. And then you've also got this piece of percussion going on here. This percussion kit is basically a modified version of one of the techno kits on this keyboard. Actually, it's called Chill Out Kit. And to get that filtered effect, it is all velocity controlled. So in other words, I'm just controlling the depth of that effect by how hard I'm pressing that key. To give an example, let's see if I can find actual sound. I know it's here somewhere. Here we go. This particular sound here, there is a low pass filter used on this. What a low pass filter does, basically, it doesn't affect the high frequencies of that sound, you know, the trebly bits of that sound, but anything below a certain frequency, anything that's above a certain frequency, it affects it, and the bass frequencies and the mid frequencies are unaffected. So that's what that basically does. Also in the piece I've got some more percussion in the form of this sound. No, it's not this sound. Just the triangle going. And then you've got the house kit, which at this point in time there's a lot of low pass filtering used on it, so all of the high frequency partials of that sound are affected, they are muted if you like. And that's basically what section A is made up of. So if I just play it again, this is everything. Now I then move on to section B, in which the techno drums kind of like build up in volume. Well, actually it isn't actually building up in volume. I'm basically opening up the low pass filter so that more of the sound can be heard, more of the high frequency partials of that sound can be heard. Can you hear it? Now if I just mute that so we can just hear that house kit, and you can hear the transition as it's playing. So this is with the filter completely closed, and it's opening gradually still. More of the sound is coming into play. And then we've got section C. This is almost like a, I don't know, a bridge section or something. Now the only sounds, the only melodies or harmonies, if you like, that are changed here are the bass line and the high strings. And then section D. Now here you can hear a piano going on, and there's a fill-in that comes in on the percussion section just at the end of this section. Now on this section, if you just want to hear the piano bit by itself, this is how it sounds like. The breakdown. Okay, now Now, in order to create this breakdown, in order to make it more effective when you're listening to it, I've once again applied a low pass filter to the string sound, the synth string sound, so that when they are played it sounds more and more synthy, more and more dark, if you like. This is that string sound in action. So that's basically how it sounds. I've used the low pass filter and turned it all the way down, so I've closed it so that only certain high frequency filters can get through. In fact, this particular sound uses a mixture of a low pass filter and a band pass filter. Now, what a band pass filter is, it allows you to specify a specific frequency range that is not affected by any kind of processing. So you hear that buzzing sound in the background on that sound. That buzzing sound that you're hearing is the same basic sound that's not being affected by a low pass filter. Unfortunately, it is beyond my scope to actually isolate the affected sound from the sound which has the bypass filter on it, but you get the idea. The low pass filter is used on the the sound that has the wow wow, that sort of effect on it. There are other sounds used in this breakdown which again are there to differentiate it from the rest of the tune. You'll hear this, it's another synth sort of sound which uses a series of arpeggiated notes. Those notes going on. Yeah. Basically, again, it's not just the choice of sound, the obvious synth sounds used here, but it's also the choice of processing as well. The purpose of this sound was that I wanted, again, something to make it distinctive from the rest of the tune, but also to give this particular section a unique feel, while at the same time still containing some familiar aspects of it. Like, for instance, that Robin Hood motif is still there. You hear that? And to hear this in the context of those synth sounds, it kind of gives it a very nice sort of effect, if you like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to isolate all of the other tracks except the horn and that arpeggiated synth sound. Oh yeah, and of course the synth wow, that wah sound. Sorry, wrong sound. But this is that guitar that's also there as well, so I'll keep that as well. You hear it. At the same time, the percussion section has been completely muted by the low pass filter, and I'm going to bring it in now so that you can hear it. Mind you, that triangle sound is not affected, and the reason for that is because it is placed on a different track with no processing at all. And finally, I'm going to lead this breakdown into the very last section, section F, which is the fade. Now here, I've introduced yet another arpeggiated sound, which is a synthesizer bell sound. On the Motiv it is called stack bell, which goes like this. And it fades out because it is fading out with the rest of the music, except for the horn section. We'll hear it in a bit. I might as well just do that. I've also introduced another drum kit on top of what was there, in the form of a house kit, which sounds, well, a hip hop kit, sorry, which sounds like this. And finally, I would introduce the crash cymbal as well. You'll hear it in a bit. Like that. And then I can bring in the rest of the instruments. So what you get is something like this. And that basically is how the track was made. It took me about, I'd say about 2 weeks, but during that time I've only spent something like 2 hours a day on the track. At the moment now I'm at the stage in which I need to get it mastered. Basically I do the mastering myself. But the funny thing about creating something on something like the Motiv XS7 here is that before you even get to the mastering stage, the track sounds almost complete as it does. You know, so sometimes I wonder whether whether mastering is worth it in the end. You know, if it sounds that good anyway, as long as the volume levels are consistent throughout the production, and as long as they can compete with the volume levels of a commercial track. You know, one has to wonder whether you would, you know, why you would want to go through the trouble of mastering. The problem with mastering as well is that depending on the kind of mastering used, for instance compression and limiting, it can also alter in a way drastically the dynamics, the original dynamics of the song, and the end product may not be what you want anyway. You know, you could have, I mean, okay, I could use mastering, for instance, on a rock track. Now the thing about rock music is that there aren't much in the sense of in the sense of dynamics, because it's all like one level, you know, everyone thrashing the heck out of their guitars and banging the heck out of their drums and everything. But when it comes to electronica, for instance, in which this is the genre in which this music is based on, there are so many different subgenres of electronica. You could have the kind of electronica, I think they call it intelligent dance music, I don't know why they call it that, in which you have high and low sections in terms of volume. I'd say this fits somewhere around that sort of genre, but it also uses instruments that you would associate with I don't know, classical music, like the horn section, for instance. And of course it uses a hip-hop drum kit, especially towards the end, and a house drum kit, which makes up the bulk of the song. The very beginning of the song, the introduction, sounds very almost classical orientated, you know, or neoclassical, call it whatever. But yeah, when it comes to mastering, the only thing that I would do with this particular track would be to make sure that the volume level for the whole track is up to the same sort of standards as you would find on a commercial recording. Yeah, so this is it. The Robin Hood Tax, composed by Brian Quarry, made for a production by Silangu Teshuma. And if Silangu is actually watching this, I give credit to you for allowing me to be a part of your project. Peace.